Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the first tour of faith for Atlantic Institute in 2023. We are virtually visiting Baltimore, Maryland, and we have with us Imam Yasin Shaikh, and he is going to be speaking with us about Islam and Muslims. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to him. We are doing this right before Friday prayers, which is the holiest day for Muslims. So we want to make sure that we keep our time in an orderly fashion so that at the end, he will put the YouTube link in the comments so that if you would like to watch the Friday prayers, you can hop off here at the end and hop onto YouTube and watch it there. So if you can, Imam Yasin, go ahead and take it away.
Okay, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'll begin with the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful, and the greeting of Islam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, which means greetings be upon you, peace be upon you, and God's mercy and his blessings. Thank you, Christine, for inviting me today to share with the group. I'm honored to be able to engage in this type of discourse and conversation with different people from across different spectrums and different parts of the country, and as I believe, different parts of the world. This type of dialogue and conversation promotes, healthy understandings of one another and also a broader perspective, so that we're able to coexist peacefully and recognizing and acknowledging the religious practices and cultural practices of different groups within a certain country or state or even city. So I'm really, really honored to be here. I'm part of the Islamic Society of Baltimore, as Christine mentioned. The Islamic Society of Baltimore is a 50-year-old mosque based in a suburb of the Baltimore area called Windsor Mill. And it's a very diverse mosque, probably one of the most diverse mosques in the country, with many, many different ethnicities and languages being represented. Within this mosque. We serve a very large area. As I mentioned, demographics are very, very diverse. And we were primarily set up or established by immigrant Muslims from the Indian, Pakistani subcontinent and Middle East. But of course, people being here for so many decades, having children here, they've raised indigenous homegrown Muslims. And we also have a very large percentage of homegrown indigenous African-American Muslims as well. So it's a very interesting dynamic, which you don't find in different parts of the country. There's no one strong ethnic background within the mosque, even though predominantly you'll see mostly Indian Pakistani people in terms of population, but that is not represented in the culture or the practice or the direction of the mosque. So that's something I wanted to mention earlier on. I just want to, I'm going to take this opportunity to just share a little bit about Islam. And it's, we have very brief time, as Christine mentioned. I also do plan on taking you guys for a brief tour of the mosque with via Zoom. So I'm going to have to log in with my phone in a few minutes as well, so I can take the phone around the mosque and show you guys the mosque. But I would probably appreciate if I just presented for about 10-15 minutes, and then we would just open up for questions, because I'm sure most people have a very basic understanding of what Islam is. So I don't want to keep speaking about creed or the theology, etc. So if you have any questions, specific questions, feel free to ask them. I think somebody's asked me to enlarge the slide presentation. Is that better? Is that better, Chris?
Yes,
Yeah.
better.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
So I'm just going to give you guys a brief introduction to Islam and Muslims. These are two different terms, Islam and Muslims. Islam is the name of the faith, and Muslims are the practitioners or those who subscribe to adhere to the faith of Islam. If you notice, there are similar letters within both terms, S, L, and M specifically. In Arabic, Sin, Lam, and Mim. And these three letters, when combined, can denote very different meanings in different contexts. It's the same wording that is used in the Muslim greeting when we say Assalamu alaikum, which means peace be upon you. which is not just a greeting, but it's also a supplication for the person you're addressing, to also inform them and let them know that you mean no harm to them, that they are safe in your presence. So it's more than just a greeting, assalamu alaikum. But the word Islam and Muslims, Islam means a willful submission to the commands of God. That a person, through their own volition, with their own intellect, mind, body, and soul, without any coercion or force, submit to the commands of God and the lifestyle that God has revealed in the Quran via his Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, which he conveyed to his society, his community, which was to then be conveyed to the rest of mankind. So anyone who adheres to the core tenets of Islam is called a Muslim. So though Islam is a very brief, small term, it packs a lot of meaning within it. And we'll very shortly speak about some of those concepts or some of those core tenets of the faith. So as you're seeing in this slide, Islam is a very diverse religion, diverse faith. In every single continent of the world, you'll find a very large percentage of Muslims. There are approximately 1.8 billion Muslims around the world today, and the majority of them are probably found in Asia, Africa, Middle East. Though the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was born and raised in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia, which what we know as current day Saudi Arabia, there are only 300 million Middle Eastern Muslims. The majority of Muslims are in Indonesia, which has the highest Muslim population in the world, followed by Pakistan. Also, countries that have a very large population like India, where my family originates from, my parents originate from India, has a very large percent of Muslims, but probably about 22% Muslims. We're looking at around 300 million Muslims in India, 250 to 300 million Muslims. So who are the Muslims? You'll find Muslims in every single arena, every single domain, every single part of life. You'll find Muslims in corporations, in hospitals, working in your airports, retail staff, bank clerks, even as far as politics today as well. You'll find Muslims as teachers, academics. In every single walk of life, you'll find Muslims. Here's some facts about Islam and Muslims. And just want you to see at the bottom, this presentation is about 12 years old. So there might be a few updates to what you'll see right now. But anyway, what you're seeing here, 57 countries with Muslims as the majority of the population, including 22 Arab countries, 1.57, that number has risen significantly. Only about 18 to 20% of Muslims are Arabs. Country with the largest Muslim population is Indonesia. Here's some pictures of mosques. This is in Indonesia, holds over 100,000 people. How do Muslims see themselves? Muslims have a rich, diverse, proud history full of great achievements and contributions to the world. Here's some information that's available if anybody ever wanted to look up Muslim contributions to the world during the golden age of Islam. Within the first 6-7 centuries of Muslim life, you'll find lots of information in these books. Contributions that Muslims made to academics, to universities, to studies, to learning, to education. Under the Abbasid Caliphate, Muslims were the ones who you can say reignited or brought to light Greek philosophy that was almost lost and buried, translated it into the Arabic language and made it and proliferated it. And it also, brought about many challenges within Muslim scholastic, academic thought, right? So that type of interaction, Muslims contributed to markets and towns and hospitals, mathematics, geography, science, all these different subjects. So Muslims were actually, during their golden period and golden age, leaders in all of these different areas. A lot of the systems that we see in place today were established during the Abbasid Caliphate under Muslim rule. When you look at, for example, accommodations for disabled, handicapped people and and then free education, etc. All these types of, and then of course the hiring of academics and scholars to concentrate and focus on research in different areas. These are things that were thriving under the Abbasid Caliphate. So we're looking at the 2nd, 3rd century of Islam, what we say that. Here's just a map of the world where, you know, there are different numbers of Muslims. Right. This was built by a Muslim. This is the Dome of the Rock in Palestine. So just pictures of different mosques around the world. Beautiful, beautiful architecture. The architecture varies from culture to culture, and has it been influenced by those cultures as well. If you ask me where these mosques were, I wouldn't be able to tell you all of them. This one's in Damascus, Syria.
I think I recognize like the blue mosque back a few slides.
Yes.
I remember I've been there.
Istanbul.
Yes, I've been there.
And this is Pakistan. Okay. Right. Okay. I was in South America. This is the Prophet Muhammad's mosque in the city of Medina, Saudi Arabia. We believe
that one is gorgeous.
Yes, and he's buried under this dome here, this green dome. This is the inside of it. I think this is just a mosque in the States. So this is just a brief slide on the role of the mosques. You know, there are a lot of mosques in America. The first mosque to be built apparently is in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. So I don't know why Iowa, but I'm sure there's some historical journey or significance to Iowa as to why the first mosque was built there. But you'll find mosques in many different shapes and forms here in America. We have some purpose-built mosques where Muslims would acquire land and build, or they'll buy a pre-existing building, which is good enough to renovate from within to accommodate mosque facilities and structures. And sometimes there'll be rental facilities. And there have been times where Muslims co-share spaces with different religious groups as well. So about 10 miles away, for example, there's a center that is used by different religious groups. Muslims use it on Friday, Jews use it on Saturday, and Christians use it on a Sunday. Mosques are places where Muslims meet to offer prayers. So our daily 5 prayers are conducted within a mosque in congregation, if a person can make it. Sometimes it could be major buildings with minarets and domes, or they could be simple rented spaces, as I mentioned. Some of the services that are offered in the mosque are prayers, funerals, arbitration, marriages, divorces, counselling, youth activities, voter registration, religious education, civic and social services. So depending on the size and the infrastructure of the mosque, you'll find different services being offered. So it's almost like a one-stop shop in some degrees, or to some degree. Here's some notable Muslim figures that you might recognize or you might have heard of in different parts of American life. The Gallup poll reveals that Muslim Americans are the most racially diverse religious group surveyed in the USA. Muslims are estimated to be between 7 to 8 million in the US, and it's one of the fastest growing religions in followers. Here's some notable Muslim figures. This is Hakim Olajuwon. This is Muhammad Ali. Muslims in different areas, sports and arts. First mosque in America, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Here's a picture of the mosque. It says there are currently over 2,000 mosques in America. As I mentioned, this was in 2011. There's probably far more than that now. So the question arises, what is Islam? This is a question that really concerns a lot of people. It's a question that a lot of people have, especially after 9/11 and the rise of extremist groups and tendencies. So it's a question that lots of people have asked, lots of people have been curious about. People want to know, what is Islam? What is the Quran? What is Prophet Muhammad? What does the Quran say? And, you know, it's astonishing that after 9/11, the Quran was the fastest selling book in the world. And lots of people actually came to Islam or turned to Islam or became Muslim after reading the Quran. after 9/11. So it's interesting how God works in mysterious ways. The most basic understanding of Islam is that it's a monotheistic religion, invites people to recognize, believe, and worship Allah, God, and Muslims believe that He's the same. It's the same God, the God of the Christians and the God of the Jews, the same God that sent Muhammad, is the same God that sent Jesus, Moses, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, peace be upon them. This is a term that we use after mentioning the names of prophets out of respect for them, as God mentioned peace be upon them in the Quran. So following God's own method of addressing them or speaking about them, we always say peace be upon them after mentioning their names. Recognize, believe, and worship in Allah, one Allah, and that is the most basic fundamental tenet of the faith, to believe in God's oneness. It was the first address or the first message to be delivered to the pagans and the idolaters of Mecca, Prophet Muhammad's immediate community in Saudi Arabia, who were entrenched in idol worshipping, who had turned away from the traditions of Abraham, which is known as Millah Ibrahimi in Quranic terminology. And the Quran invites them to exclusively worship one Lord and supplicate to one Lord and believe in one Lord, which is Tawheed. Tawheed means monotheism, God's oneness. So that's the first basic foundational concept in the Islamic faith, that there's one Lord, one creator, one master, one sustainer, one controller, one who is absolute in his knowledge, one who is absolute in his power, master of the day of judgment. To him we ask, and only to him we worship, and only to him we supplicate. And there are many attributes and names mentioned about God or of God in the Quran. There are 99 attributes that are quite famously known in the Quran, and I'll show you some of those attributes when we take a tour of the mosque in a few minutes. Secondly, it invites people to believe in heaven and hell, which is an idea or the belief about accountability, human accountability, and thereafter accountability for our actions as rational, thinking, logical, intellectual human beings that have been endowed with thinking, the capacity to believe and the capacity to choose. God revealed His word to us, and also His law to us, and His legal code to us, and how to conduct ourselves in this worldly life. God did not only reveal it, but He also interacts with us on a daily basis, and based on that, we make choices, and based on those choices, we will be accountable in front of God for the choices that we have made, for the actions that we have performed and practiced. As we see people die in this world without accountability, without judgment, and those who are entitled to judgment are passing without their due course. So there has to be a realm in which this establishment or judgment is established and accomplished and completely and incomprehensively given to people, and that would be the day of judgment. So belief in heaven and hell, belief in the day of judgment as physical experiences and physical abodes is a tenet of the Islamic faith. Muslims are also invited to enjoin what is right. So we have a duty as believers to conduct God's work on earth and to establish harmony, peace, and also God's intent and God's objectives and whatever He has revealed to us in the Quran. So that is also enjoining what is right, what is morally acceptable. All of these things are included within the belief system of Islam, and forbidding and prohibiting what is wrong. Of course, that would vary based on the level of individuals we're speaking about. So on a governmental level, forbidding what is wrong would look different, whereas on a communal level, for individuals living in a multi-faith society, for example, forbidding wrong would look different as well. But we still have a duty to invite people towards what we believe is the truth that God has revealed in the Quran, or the way of life that God intends for humanity in the Quran. Islam also invites people to follow divine guidance, which is the message of God in the Quran, as shown to us by the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. So universal religion and message is not exclusive to any region or any language group or any ethnic group. It's for all people at all times and all regions of the world. It's a faith of human unity. It calls all mankind, regardless of their race and gender, to unite in the worship of the one true Allah. Islam considers all people as brothers and sisters and rejects discrimination on the basis of gender, color, race, or ethnic background. In terms of the way that Islam dealt with race and racial differences, at least from a textual perspective and in the life of the Prophet Muhammad, was to eradicate discrimination and to remove it completely and totally. Mankind is one family. That's the message of the Quran, that you believers are a brethren and a brotherhood. So that idea of unity and unity within humanity and brotherhood is a very strongly emphasized one in Islam. So God says that we created man and woman, we created mankind, and we placed them in groups, and we created them from a male and female, and we made them into groups and tribes so that they may know one another. That's a verse of the Quran, and in that verse, God goes on to say that indeed the most honorable in the sight of God is the one who is most righteous in their actions, and indeed God is all-knowing. We see this beautiful equality within the Muslim community that is represented at Hajj, where Muslims from all corners of the world, regardless of their social status, economic status, worship together, come together, donning the same type of clothing, all seeking God's pleasure, seeking God's grace, seeking God's compassion, seeking God's mercy. So here's a beautiful depiction of that and a beautiful picture of that with millions of people. I think the capacity of this mosque is very, very large. There's a few floors as well. So this is the top floor, the roof area that my cursor is going around. And they've also expanded parts of it. So this is from 2011, but it's been expanded further out. There's another picture of it close up. This is the holy sanctuary, the holy mosque in Mecca Mukarramah, which Muslims believe is the first house of God to be established on earth for the guidance of mankind. Men, women, children, rich and poor, all nationalities side by side worshipping in Mecca here. There's another picture of it. These are older pictures, by the way. So I was explaining earlier, the religion of Islam is based on the acceptance of and obedience to the teachings of God, which he revealed to his last prophet Muhammad. And this is all summarized in the declaration of faith, which is known as the Shahada. The Shahada, declaration of faith, is a testimony that an individual provides that God is one and he has no partners, and that Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, is his final messenger. And once this declaration, verbal declaration, corroborates with the internal conviction within one's heart, a person is then a Muslim. So somebody might ask, what's the process for somebody becoming a Muslim? The process is for them to learn about the testimony of faith and what it represents, and and to unpack it, to understand what the basic tenets of the faith are. When I say that I believe in one God, what does that mean? And when I say that Prophet Muhammad is his final messenger, what does that mean? That also speaks about the finality of his prophethood. That also means that I believe in a long line of prophets that came before him. That also means that I believe in the scripture that he received, which was the Quran. That also means that I believe in the scriptures that were sent, revealed before him, such as the Gospel, or the Psalms, or the Torah, so on and so forth. And then if he taught us, that means I believe in all the teachings that he conveyed. And within those teachings, there are teachings about angels, teachings about their judgment, teachings about God's divine decree and predestination, teachings about heaven and hell, eschatology, all of those different things. So as a Muslim, when I say the Shahada, the declaration of faith, I am providing testimony to all of those things, that I believe in them and have full conviction and faith in them. This is just a breakdown of the word Islam. I was explaining to you guys earlier. SLM equals salam, peace. Islam means willfully surrendering, willfully submitting, and a willful and voluntary obedience to the commands of Allah without any coercion, without any force. So it's a personal free will being exercised here. It's the attainment of peace through submission. This is like bringing both meanings of peace and submission together to attain mental, spiritual, and physical peace, because Islam is for mind, body, spirit, soul, and to attain peace with our Creator, ourselves, and others. That it's not just a personal matter about me believing in Islam and practicing it within my own home. It's not just a set of rituals, but it's a comprehensive way of life. And my external affairs, the way that I interact with people, the way I deal with people, the way I conduct myself, even my business dealings, my ethical morality, everything, my marriage, all of that is conducted under God's laws and the way that God has revealed. Muslims believe, and the Quran confirms, there's no compulsion in religion, because of a faith that teaches freedom of choice and freedom of conscience also believes that there's no compulsion in religion. Otherwise, it would be counterproductive and contradictory. So the Quran says there's no compulsion in religion. The right direction is distinct from error. And he who rejects false deities and believes in Allah has grasped a firm handhold with which will never break. Allah is hearer and knower.
I just want to make sure you know you have 15 minutes until 1 o'clock.
Yes. Okay. Should we just open up for questions then? If anybody has any question before we move on to our short, brief tour.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that'd be fine. And I was thinking if you needed to leave, that we have 1 or 2 other Muslims on here too. That if they had other questions,
Okay.
if we run out of time, and you needed to bow out, that they might be able to help answer some questions as well.
Okay.
So does anybody have any questions that they like to put in the chat or speak them? Sometimes some of these questions are easier spoken than typed. So I figured I would just open that up. If no questions at the moment, we can go ahead and move on with, oh wait, we have Cheryl. Is there any punishment for leaving the Muslim faith?
Are we speaking about punishment in this world? I mean, so that's a good question, and I think the question is related to apostasy, right? And apostasy.
I would think of that as right. I would think of it as that.
Yeah. So in Islam, we do understand between a person and their Lord and a person and God. If a person chooses, which we would deem misguidance after being guided, then between them and God, of course, there will be accountability for that choice that they have made. And the Quran does speak about that as well. So that's definitely a consideration in the Islamic faith, because what Muslims do believe and what the Quran is teaching is that this is God's path and the truth and it's a continuation, of course, of the message that God sent before to Jesus, Moses, and the Prophet Muhammad taught the same message that was revealed to those prophets. Laws may have been different, but the fundamental tenets of the faith were the same. It's the same Lord that sent Moses and Jesus sent Muhammad, peace be upon him, peace be upon all of them. So after believing and after having conviction, if a person renegades or they turn their back on God's way, then of course between them and God there is they are punishable. And if the question is about worldly implications in the worldly life, then again, what does that involve? Like a person leaving the faith and making that choice and being private about it in their own home or in their own life, versus a person who openly causes mischief and tries to break the public peace by propagating ideas that are contrary and conflicting with faith. So that might be a different consideration. And then, of course, we also have to take into consideration where we're talking about, which countries we're talking about, which society we live in. United States of America, for example. In the United States of America, we are, we all accept the Constitution, and we all accept to live under the Constitution of the United States as well. So if a person is free and at liberty to choose whatever path in life they wish to, regardless of how they were raised and what religion they belong to. So in our context, it's not even a question of any repercussion for such individuals. Yeah, at a state level. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a couple of years ago, we had a discussion on there was culture versus faith, because sometimes there's like you just said, in the United States, how it would be applied is this way. But so sometimes people associate certain things with the Muslim faith, but they forget to look at what culture it was from too, because there's certain things that are cultural tradition, and then there are certain things that are faith tradition. So I think that was an important, and I had culture versus faith, a whole discussion, and I think it was a very good discussion to have, to understand that there's that, like, Christian faith is different in different countries as well, that depending on the culture. Like in the faith that I grew up in here, you would not have a beard. Men would not have a beard. You'd be clean shaven. But if you were of the same faith I grew up in South Africa, a beard might be acceptable, you know, so there was different variations that way. All right, I'll let you in over here on your cell phone.
Okay.
Recording.
Should we take a tour of the mosque then?
Sure. If you have you have 10 minutes. Can you tour this mosque in 10 minutes? This is your mission.
Right. We can try. Let me log out and log back in 1 second.
Okay. And
Recording in progress.
Let's go back down to where you are.
Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay.
Probably needed to stop sharing your screen before we left.
Yeah, let me do that.
See if I can fix that. There we go.
Right. Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. I'll see if I can oh, that's it. I can turn my camera on. Okay. Right, so I'm just in the office building right now. And so as I mentioned earlier, we do have a very large congregation, a large mosque here, serving very large areas. So these are some of our office spaces. We have an office building here, a conference room. That's my office there I was sitting in right now. A few offices here. Our other imams. Downstairs
Very nice.
downstairs is our admin space. Like another conference room here. Have a kitchenette there at the back. So at this mosque, we also provide funeral services. So we also have a funeral wash facility, which is at the bottom of this building here. And this is our mosque here. I'm going to give you a brief tour. You'll get to see a bit more as I go around. At this mosque, we also have a full-time nursery and Islamic school, faith-based private school from pre-K till 8th grade. So we don't have a high school. We also have a very robust full-time Quranic memorization program for children. Here's our this is our nursery. We also have a basement there as well. This is our parking lot. It's quite big. Behind these bushes as well.
Very neat. We're going to hope we don't lose any connection. Which we may have.
So at this mosque, we also have a facility center for seniors, for those in their golden age, we call them, 65 and up, because seniors are neglected in a lot of communities and not a lot going on for them. So we have a very robust, very active seniors group where they come, they are able to find assistance for some of the services that are available to them, and also just socialize with other people in the community. So this building here, as you can see, says that at night time it lights up and it's really beautiful. Allah, Muhammad, and this is a declaration of faith, La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah. This part of the building is an addition which was built during COVID, and it was completed in 2021. So I'm going to take you inside now. This is our side entrance. Stairs here going up to classrooms.
Did you have your things open?
Right. There's a large classroom here. 2 rooms has a divider in the middle. Taking more classrooms here. We have a cafeteria on site, like a small restaurant. So, on Fridays we sell food after the Friday prayer. Right?
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah. We have a gymnasium here as well.
Oh, very nice gymnasium.
It could be a little bit renovated. But this is our lobby area, the foyer area. And as you might be aware, Muslims remove their shoes before they enter the prayer facility. The prayer involves prostrating on the ground, like you can see these individuals prostrating, so the ground has to be clean. And it's the same command that God gave to Moses before he entered the sacred space. Removing your shoes for you in the sacred valley, mentioned in the Quran as well.
Yes, I noticed the shoe.
I'm going to have to be as quiet as possible because people are praying in here. But this is our prayer space. These carpets are from Turkey, the Turkish design. As you notice here, there's rows. People can pray and stand in rows. And there are chairs on the side for the elderly who are struggling to stand. Here's the front of the mosque, the front of the prayer area. Wherever you find this niche, this will tell you the direction of Mecca. And that's the direction we're praying. The podium there is where the Imam stands to deliver the Friday sermon. And one unique feature in this mosque is the 99 names of God, as I was mentioned earlier, on 99 windows here, which is a very beautiful feature. So these are the 99 names of God mentioned in the Quran, his attributes. Right. And here's a verse of the Quran which mentions some of the attributes as well. Just try and slow the camera down. So I think somebody asked about men and women in a different area. Yes, the women are in the mezzanine area here. Really, it's difficult. The area here upstairs. So women are in that area there. This is the classroom area, which the overflow goes into. On Fridays, we have to have 3 services because of a large number of people. So the question was asked about men and women praying in different areas. This is depending on the mosque that you attend. Some mosques have accommodations for men and women in the same room, same area when you're praying, however, separately from the men. Whereas in some mosques with larger congregations, they would prefer to have 2 separate facilities altogether. So I'm just going to take you outside from the different entrance. So these are. So this is the lower level of the mosque. Wa alaikum salam. Wa alaikum salam. Wa alaikum salam. How are you? This area has about 10 classrooms inside this area, wash areas as well. And this is where our nursery is behind these doors. Here's our entrance area. And you can see many different people. Wa alaikum salam, Pops, how you doing? You all right? Yeah. That's me greeting my folks on a Friday.
Assalamu alaikum. So it's very common for Muslims to say Assalamu alaikum when they see them. Assalamu alaikum. How are you? Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Little, right? Yeah. Right. So
Very neat. Very neat. It is a very large facility.
there's our ice cream man. He comes in on Fridays. Yeah. Yeah, it's about 7 or 8 acres. We're building a playground at the back as well for our school children. This is, by the way, this is a mosque that President Barack Obama visited during his presidency. I'm not sure if you guys are aware of that. So during the 2016 presidential campaign, there was a lot of negative rhetoric against Islam and Muslims from certain quarters, and then President Obama was encouraged to visit a mosque during his time, so they would encourage, it would level out the discourse, as they visited our mosque, because we're not too far from Washington D.C. and what's going on here. So I was mentioning earlier, this is our facility center. This house belongs to the mosque. This is the activity house.
I think you're going a little far. We're starting to lose you a little.
Give back to the community of mine who's a recent police officer in the area. I'm on a presentation with a group. Good to see you. Good to see you. Yeah, see you. Yeah. Okay. Gotta be nice with the police, right? Yeah. So I mean, I'll take you. I'll show you from so this belongs to the mosque. We also have another 5 acres of land, a little bit just like, I want to say about 100 yards away. About 5 or 6 houses down, we have another 5 acres of land as well, which this is our medical clinic here. So we provide medical services we operate on the weekends, and anybody who's uninsured or underinsured, we provide services.
Very cool. Nice.
Yeah. And that's kind of that's our facility, really. You can see let me show you a different angle of the mosque from here. As you're driving on I-70, which is the highway here, one of the highways, you can get a glimpse of the mosque from this angle, this sort of angle.
Yes. Yep. Yep. No, I get it. I see it. Before it looked very much like a building. Now I can see that it has more of a mosque.
Yeah, in the winter time when there's no leaves, it's very exposed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Yassine. Does anybody have any questions? Because I know it's time for prayers. Is there a YouTube chat that now you're on your phone? I don't know if there's any way you can put, if anybody wanted to observe prayers or like log on to YouTube.
Which will be conducted by yours truly. So isb.org/live. And Assalamu alaikum. Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to start in about 10 minutes.
Oh, yes. So Barbara over here was saying she toured a mosque recently in which they were shown a washing room where worshippers washed their face and hands, arms and feet prior to entering the mosque. And she said, is that the same in all mosques? So I don't know if you heard that. Is that the same in all mosques?
Yes. So to answer the question.
Yes.
Hello? Yep.
Yes. Yep. You're breaking up a little bit. You're frozen at the moment. But Barbara, yes, that will tell you that is the same.
Yes, so sorry, I mean, I think my network was a bit poor. Yes, that's the same in all mosques. Every mosque has a washroom, which we call an ablution room. So it's a preparation for prayer that every Muslim makes. It's a requirement for the validity of the prayer. So you have a wash, very brief wash where you wash your face. Walaikum salam. Wash your face, your arms, wash your feet. Yeah, so you'll find that.
Very good. And I will tell you, Barbara,
this-
if you go to Muslim majority countries, some of the restaurants and places in those countries, they have washing rooms downstairs too.
Walaikum salam. So this is our viewing area from the outside when somebody passes away. Assalamu alaikum. When somebody passes away, we have, after we provide the wash, they can come here and be seated here with their loved one. So
Yes, this is very interesting. This is a very interesting part.
I don't want to take you into the funeral washroom because I'm not sure how people feel.
No, that's okay. We're good.
That. Yeah.
I can just imagine that in my mind.
It's very neat, actually, very clean. But yeah,
I can imagine, and I know during COVID, there was a lot of issues with when somebody died of the Muslim faith or even the Jewish faith, having to.
Yeah.
I know the rabbis here that were in the Jewish faith. They went to the funeral homes and they instructed how to take care of their loved ones because there was a lot of precautions in place, and it made it very difficult.
Yeah, I was in England at the time, so I was in for about 3.5 years. I moved to the States as an imam in Texas for about 7 years, and I came to Baltimore for 4 years. I went back to England, where I was born and raised, where my family is, and so I was there for about 3.5 years. Then I came back. Okay, so there's this.
Is that the call to prayer? Oh, I can't hear you. No, there we go.
Becoming a Muslim today. So that's going to happen after the prayer. That'll be on mic as well. Yeah, so everybody wants to see.
Okay. All right. And so what's I know we can let you go.
I sent the link in the chat.
Okay. Do that again.
Yeah.
I don't think it went through.
Okay. Let me know if it goes through this time.
Oh, yes. I see. isb.org/live. Yes. Okay.
Yeah. You got it? Okay, cool.
Okay.
Great.
I got it.
Well, it was a pleasure. Pleasure meeting with you guys, though it was very brief. And maybe in the future we can reconnect again another time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Take care.
All right. You too. You have a good afternoon.
Bye.